You are driven, accomplished, and constantly moving. So, why do you still feel stuck? Maybe when you have that rare free moment, that question just kind of lingers in the back of your head. Maybe while you are sitting in the car after a meeting, those few moments in between back to back responsibilities. Or when you finally sit down and you realize that you're exhausted but unfulfilled. You've worked hard, you've checked the boxes, but something just doesn't feel right anymore. And the thing is, you may not be falling apart, but deep down, you know that you're not living fully aligned. If that sounds familiar, you are in the right place because today we're talking about why many times we as ambitious women feel stuck. And more importantly, how to start realigning your life with what actually matters. Welcome back to my channel, my friends, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Christy, and I make content centered around realizing that no matter where you are in life, no matter your age, you are just on time to live the life of your dreams. I'm really passionate about helping ambitious, faith-led women who feel stuck, overwhelmed, or disconnected to find balance, lose self-doubt, and honestly just declutter their lives because that was where I used to be. I remember years ago when it looked like I had it all together because I had a degree, I had a career, I had a calendar full of goals. But behind the scenes, there was a lot going on. I was grieving the loss of my parents. I was trying to help stabilize my brother and sister, so essentially raising them. I had all of these new responsibilities that have fallen on me and still trying to maintain some semblance of a social life and stay on track while I was feeling so overwhelmed. I had always been high achieving and high functioning, but I was completely out of alignment and I just felt stuck. And for years, I thought that I was broken because I could not get out of this cycle of feeling and being stuck. After a series of steps that I took to heal and to rebuild my confidence, I realized that stuck doesn't mean broken. Stuck means that we are misaligned, and alignment can always be rebuilt. But you first have to understand why it is that you're feeling stuck, why it is that you're feeling out of alignment, and then what to do about it. After going through that process myself, I realized that there are four key areas, four major reasons why high achieving, highly capable, highly ambitious women feel stuck even when everything looks good on paper. One, people pleasing in disguise. You might not call yourself a people pleaser because you are ambitious, you're independent, and you are doing the thing. But people pleasing doesn't always just look like saying yes to everything and avoiding conflict. Sometimes it looks like following the script, the unspoken one of other people's expectations over our lives. Be successful, but not too much. Be helpful, but don't ask for help. Be grateful, even when you're exhausted. And so what happened is you said yes to promotion, not because it lit you up, not because you were excited about it, but because it just felt like the next logical step. You agreed to lead that committee, take on that project, or mentor that new colleague. You didn't do it because you felt any sense of joy around it or even a sense of purpose around it, but you felt selfish not doing it. This kind of people pleasing is quiet. It shows up in your resume, on your calendar, and in the times when you say yes, when really you want to say no. And then what happens is when your life is built on meeting expectations instead of honoring your alignment, then even when you're successful, it can feel heavy. To see if you're silently people pleasing, I want you to ask yourself these questions. What parts of your life are built from desire and which are built from duty? Where are you performing instead of living? What would change if you trusted that your worth doesn't depend on being impressive, helpful, or being the strong one? It is not selfish to want and crave a life that fits your soul. Second, you have unclear or outdated priorities. Another reason that high achievers feel stuck is because they are living by old priorities that no longer suit who they are. At some point, you set goals that made sense for your life. Maybe it was based on your education, your family's values, or what success was supposed to look like. But now you've grown and you've changed. Things have happened, and you are not the same person that you were 5, 10, whatever years ago. And if you haven't paused to reassess where you are, then you might be chasing a life that no longer fits. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to be married with a couple of children, like so bad. That was my goal. But after losing my parents and having all of these responsibilities, by the time I was in my late 20s and early 30s, that plan, that desire no longer resonated with me. But there was a part of me that was still chasing it because it was the plan that I wanted before, and it was the thing that I felt really safe in. For you, what does that look like? Maybe it's that perfect career or that 5-year plan or that constant hustle toward the next achievement. All of those things might have served you in a past season. It might have been what you wanted before, but now it's creating this friction for your life. Now, maybe what you're craving is peace, but you are still stuck in this performance mode. To get clear on what your priorities should be now, I need you to ask yourself, what season of life am I actually in, and are my goals aligned with it? Am I pursuing things that reflect who I used to be or who I'm becoming? What would it look like to give myself permission to evolve? Alignment isn't about abandoning your ambition or the things that you want to accomplish, but really redirecting it to make sure that it is fitting who you are now and where you're going. 3, spiritual disconnection. This one runs deep because you might be crushing it in your career as a leader, as a wife, as a mom, all of these things, and still ache for something deeper. That's not failure. That's your spirit letting you know that it is time to come back home. We live in this culture that really glorifies being self-reliant. Oh, just push through, grind harder, figure it out. But the truth is that your peace doesn't and it never will come from controlling everything. It comes from surrender. It comes from releasing this illusion that you have to hold everything together all on your own. As a faith-led woman, your strength is not just in your strategy, it's in your connection with God. And without that spiritual grounding, even your best efforts are gonna feel hollow. So ask yourself, am I inviting God into the decisions I'm making, or just asking him to bless them after the fact? Where in my life have I replaced faith with control? What would shift if I made space daily for quiet presence and prayer? Sometimes the most powerful move isn't to do more, but it's to return back to your place of strength. Number 4, lack of accountability. Let's be real, girl. You are highly capable, but that does not mean that you should be doing it alone. When you are the go-to person for everybody else, it's really easy to convince yourself that you don't need help. But isolation is really one of the biggest hidden blocks for high achievers. Without support, you second guess your decisions. You spin and overthinking. You start strong and then you lose momentum as life gets full. And so what happens is that you are crushing it in some areas and then all of these other areas are falling by the wayside. And that's why accountability matters. It's not about having someone to micromanage your life. It's about having someone in your corner. You need someone else to help you think through these things and to say, okay, let's untangle this. Or here's the next right step. Or you're not behind, you're just following the process. So again, I want you to reflect. I want you to ask yourself, where in my life am I carrying too much alone? Who truly sees me and holds me to my highest self? What kind of support would allow me to grow with less burnout? You don't need more willpower. You need a rhythm of support that reminds you of who you are and what it is that you're becoming. As always, I like to give you a few things that you can action so that you can really get the ball rolling in your life. So if you have been nodding along, here are a few things that you can do this week. 1, do a mini alignment audit. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna set the timer for 20 minutes and then you are gonna ask yourself a few questions. What's working in my life? What is draining me? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? And then you're gonna name your core values. I want you to pick out your top 3 values and then I want you to look at your calendar and see if those values are reflected in your calendar. So for example, one of my core values is physical fitness. And so if I look at my calendar and I realize that it hasn't been penciled in, then it is a check for me to know that I am not making time for what I say is a core value. Then I want you to create for yourself some gentle structure. At the beginning of the day, or maybe even before you go to bed the night before, I want you to be intentional about how you are going to make the day look. 1, how do I want to feel today? What is one thing that I can do that's aligned with the life that I want? And then, of course, reconnect with God. And so it could be 5 minutes of prayer, of quiet time, of journaling, but I want you to create a moment of getting back connected, getting back to that spiritual grounding. All right, my loves, I really hope that this spoke to you today. If you like these practical, actionable steps, I invite you to join my mailing list and my newsletter. We have some really great things coming and I don't want you to miss out. So that will be linked down below. Also, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? I'm gonna need you to jump on that. All right, my friends, I love you so much and I will see you in my next. Mwah. Bye for now.